I'm Richard Youngman, the CEO of Cleantech Group. So today I'm going to talk quickly about what we see as the big storylines in cleantech investments. Here we are, January 2024. So a year has just passed and people are always anxious to think about the year behind and the year in front. So at the very headline level, I think we should all understand that global cleantech investments, according to our data, show a 25% drop-off from 23 to 22. But the most important thing is to really try and unpack that and put it in context. To be honest, the headline number of a global investment theme this broad, affecting every industry in the world, is really not actually that useful. We need to sort of get underneath that, both geographically and subsectorally. So geographically, two things I'd say is all is not equal, meaning the Asia Pacific, for example, an area we've taken more and more interest in, is actually still rising. It's been up more than 100% since 2020. It was up 17% from 22. It's obviously a more embryonic and younger ecosystem, but about 10 billion of investments came from there in venture and growth capital over the last year. I think the US is the big story because actually it was 45% down. But again, it's not all bad news. I think it just needs to be put into context. I think we need to understand how hot markets got and therefore how big the investment levels in 21 and 22 were. And I think they are somewhat an anomaly because in some ways 23 is actually 25% up from 2020. And this is the upward trending curve that I think it's important for people to focus on. There is a very cooled market environment out there in terms of exits, and that's always going to affect people's investment patterns, certainly at the later stage. So M&A is down, but the things that really changed were the SPACs that were a big feature 2 years ago have largely disappeared for now. The public market appetite is sort of, let's say, in retrenchment. So all in all, I think from a geographical point of view, let's try to understand this as a breather, as a readjustment period, classic venture capital cycles. Let's not panic because actually there's some good news. Some of the equity is not going in because it's being replaced by other forms of finance. And this is really healthy because we're in the period where we are trying to scale technologies, manufacture technologies. And in the US, the Inflation Reduction Act has really unleashed a whole series of plants and announcements for the future in the key areas of hydrogen, batteries, solar, et cetera, et cetera. And that's one of the big reasons why actually when you look at the amount of finance going in, it's the 45% down in venture growth capital is not a sort of press panic mode. It's almost the opposite. It's a very good policy environment. And so one of the things that we're absolutely got to watch out for in 24 is, of course, the US election and what happens and how much an effect it's going to have on all those tax credits that are so critical for all these technologies. What's in store for 24? Well, I mean, there are people out there who are quite bullish. I think we're more sober. I think I'm going to call it a curate's egg type year. You know, if you're going to unpack, you're going to need to unpack it again. There are going to be some areas that are going to progress well. You know, one of the things we've noticed is how much so-called deep tech, clean tech investments have been made of late in the earlier stages, some very promising solutions around really hard problems, ranging from steel, cement, glass, those areas that we have to achieve for deep decarbonization. At the other level, I think what we're going to continue to see as these technologies scale, if you like, what I call the 2030 technologies. So this really means renewables primarily, or decarbonizing electricity and related fields, so EVs being another. The battery is so important, but as it scales, of course, it's demanding more and more of the minerals. And more of the minerals, not just lithium, are going to be under pressure. And so one of the positive stories, and we see it in our Global Cleantech 100 this year, lots of companies across the mining, refining, and recycling chains keep appearing, and they're not only dealing with lithium anymore, but trying to find reserves of these critical materials, or make sure there are closed loop systems to bring them back so we mine them once and keep using them as much as we can. So that's definitely one sort of way I would look at it. I think critically 24 has got 2 or 3 macro issues. I've already mentioned the US election, but of course The Economist has dubbed this the biggest year of elections in history. Unfortunately, we are in an era of rising populism where climate is starting to be brought into culture wars. And so I see it as critical to watch what happens. We could escape, so to speak, or we could find ourselves in a very different world where a lot of these great policies that have come out of the EU of late and what's happened under the Biden administration start to get attacked, repealed in whatever form. So that's one thing I think we've definitely got to look out for. Well, I think there are two areas that, let's get real. There are two areas that I think are truly underinvested. And I'd love to see, if you like, more activity because I see the crises coming. One relates to water. We have a significant scarcity problem in global water supplies. And this is getting worse and worse each year. And so whilst in the climate crisis there's been a significant increase in activity across multiple different sectors, despite the ups and downs we talked about, water has not really changed. I mean, in 2009, we had 9 global Cleantech 100 companies that were water related. So that's 15 years ago. Today, we have 1. That is some semblance about how the market's mode and mood around water has shifted, and yet it interrelates to energy and interrelates to the second thing I'd really love to see, which is more funds thinking about the opportunities around adaptation and resilience. So today, most of the clean tech investment, or the climate tech, if you will, talks about or is focused on mitigation solutions and opportunities. And yet here we are, in San Diego, it's raining like crazy. But the reality is we're coming out of 2023, the hottest year on record. 2024 is almost certain to be the next hottest year on record. In fact, I reflected this morning that I might have lived through my coldest year of the rest of my life as of last year, despite it being the hottest year on record. We are going to break through the 1.5 degrees scientists do not want us to. We have to accept that, and we have to start taking it seriously. I think there are enormous opportunities for technology and entrepreneurs in helping us adapt and get more resilient to, be it wildfires, be it floods, and so forth. So that's two things I'd love to see. Clearly, I'd love to see elections go pro-climate, if you like, and therefore the continuation of the policy environments that create these large financing rounds that are critical to the development of clean tech. So those are definitely the things I would love to see.